and welcome to the Weekly Review, a program of Sawa Network. My name is Roy Jarrell, the producer and the host. South Sudanese Women, 41 in number, recently published their anthology titled No Time to Mourn, edited by Hilda, Twongyeirwe, and Elizabeth Ashamu Deng. And let me just give an excerpt from the description of the book. A quote, No Time to Mourn is a collection of short stories, poems, artwork, and photography penned, produced, and presented by South Sudanese women. It reflects the lives of the voice of the very real lived experiences and lives of every woman of South Sudanese heritage. The ideas and experiences in the book span decades, they straddle borders, they cross continents and describe events that are hard to imagine, even with some knowledge of South Sudan history. It is hard not to be moved as you read what many of these authors have lived through as they strive to achieve those basic of human rights, life, liberty, and security, unquote. Today on the Weekly Review, I'm joined by three women who are among the 41 women behind the book No Time to Mourn. And they are Bigoa Chol, writer and curator, and also Emmanuella Eresto, a journalist, and Nick Sajana Dear, mental health YouTuber and blogger. Let's start with you, Bigoa. We would like you to expound and give more insights on the description that I quoted just right now. What is the book about? What should the people know that they're going to get in the book?
All right, yes. So I'm going to start a little bit around the genesis of No Time to Mourn, which is how it began. It began as a partnership between Oxfam, I believe South Sudan, and FemRight Uganda, which is a feminist writing organization that's been around for a really long time, I think since '96. It resources, supports, makes space, and empowers literacy and creative writing. And so I think what these two organizations want to do was make space for South Sudanese women to journey with their stories. And so it began as an application process that was released actually worldwide for South Sudanese women to put in application and share an excerpt of their work to be admitted to a 6-day writing retreat that was held in Uganda on the shores of Lake Victoria. And there was 18 women who attended that really magnificent writing retreat. And among those 18 women, I was one of them, and so was Emmanuella. And it really galvanized the energy and the spirit of story and writing and sharing and resourcing one another and giving space. And so it was mainly a lot of South Sudanese women with different ages, different experiences, different working backgrounds. And as you know, South Sudan has a long history of displacement, and how that's impacted us all as individuals and as families in the different regions we've ended up really makes a difference. And so myself, I went out into the diaspora, into Australia. And so it was a complete privilege to be able to come to East Africa, to come to South Sudan and sit with 18 of my sisters from different walks of life, from different ethnicities, different language backgrounds, different ages, and talk about who we are as writers, talk about our stories, and begin to write that. And so through that process, we realized there was something really powerful here, We needed to open it up to many other South Sudanese writers for us to be able to really hear and sit with our stories and really respect our craft as writers and our craft as storytellers, and to really acknowledge and affirm each other and recognize that our stories are significant and they're part of the narrative of what it is to be South Sudanese, specifically from our lens as women.
So the book brought together all those women, including from diaspora, South Sudanese women, to to give their views or to give their perspectives on issues.
Yeah, that's correct. So there was particular themes that came up throughout the retreat, particular pain points, particular stories, conflict of identity was some of that. Of course, the peace we all yearn for is how the book is set out in different sections. And so those themes I'll repeat again is conflict of identity, my sister's keeper, what it's like to be a woman, country is running. And again, it's talking about those themes of displacement, those themes of like, when do we get peace? When do we come home? When do we, I guess, begin to rebuild ourselves and our relationships? There's themes about resilience and womanhood and girlhood and what we hope for our children, what we hope for ourselves, what we hope for our mothers, what we hope for our country. And there's many creative stories, there's many memoirs about what it was like and those experiences. So the anthology set out in those ways.
Well, let's invite Emmanuella while we're still going to hear from you more regarding the book. But Emmanuella, you're a journalist. You also one of the women who contributed there in the book. Could you give us some of the contributions you made there in the book? And tell us. And while we wait for Emmanuella Bigoa, what was it like? The women themselves, were they uniformity? Were they conformity? Like, did you have the same views on some of those issues? Or some women, some women are more like men?
It's interesting you say that. What is it to be a man? What haven't South Sudanese women done that men haven't? And so I think about the resilience of my mom. I think about the resilience of my grandmother, my aunties, and there are kind of who held it together, and we were in the front lines too. And those that weren't, we held together our families, we held together our children. We made something out of nothing all the time. So I think it's important to acknowledge that men they're not in this world by themselves. They're not makers of this world by themselves. We are all in partnership, we're all in relationship, we're all in community, and different people have different strengths. Particular women have particular strengths, men have particular strengths. And I think the people who have those strengths should lead, and it should not be about gender. And I think part of what is so powerful about this anthology is that a lot of our narratives and our stories are written by men, are written by only one particular lens and one particular experience. And so I'm really, really happy, Emmanuella, I'm really, really happy that we're beginning, because these stories exist. They didn't begin yesterday. These stories are already existing. We're already telling our stories. We're already journeying with that narrative and working on our craft as storytellers, as artists, as photographers. And I think that is what makes culture, that is what continues culture, that is what strengthens communities, and that in ways that we can remember ourselves and create, I guess, our ways of relating to one another. And what are our perspectives on peace? What are our ideologies on community building? What are ideologies on finance? So I think women have a lot to offer. And I think it's beautiful because a lot of us have different experiences and we come together. They're not going to be identical. I think it's even better that they're not identical, so everybody can bring something different. And it's also important for me to hear stories from Kajukeji, you know what I mean? From Yambio, from Wow, from Malakal. It's important to know what it's like when you went to Congo as refugees. It's important to know what it's like as an internally displaced person. It's important to know what it's like to be in Uganda, what it's like to be in America, What is it like to be South Sudanese? And what are the strengths we can come together to really to move forward in peace?
I will get back to you regarding that, because there's some things I would like to ask to expand on it. But let's welcome Emmanuella in the meantime. Emmanuella, I was asking about the contribution to the book, and what was it a poem?
We were told to write a short story, telling our personal stories, like a life story. When we went there for the writing retreat, we were told that the title of the retreat was Writing Her Story. Like each and every one of us should write her own story. personal story, maybe something that you have experienced or something that you've been through. So you should try to write it in a piece. Then later will be edited to be a short story that will be published in one book, like an anthology. So I wrote a short poem and a short story. I was intending to write two stories, but I didn't find time to write it. So I ended up writing one story and a short poem.
So what was your message in your short story?
Wow.
It's difficult.
My message.
That's what people say sometimes these days. Women themselves, they don't feel the courage. They don't have the courage.
No, but it's not difficult, but it was not an easy task to do because, as you know, we as a journalist, we write other people's story. But that time, it was difficult for me to write my feelings, to write about myself, and to write my own story, despite of the short time that we were given to write the story. So we were taught how to write, then we managed to write the story. At that time, I wasn't ready to write my story because it was a kind of different type of story writing. So I wrote about the souvenir. It's a life story, my life story that happened to me. Something happened to me in 2014. Then I said, okay, why not writing it to a text? Then people will read about it, especially young girls will read about it. Then they will learn something from it. So I wrote my own story. It's a love story that tend to be disappointment and separation and things like that. So I just tried to write the events of the story without giving a specific message, without giving a specific clear message at the end of it, because it was a developing story. Maybe hopefully I will finish the story any other time from now. Yeah.
And what lessons, maybe lessons that others, maybe people who are in the stage where you were at the time when those events occurred, that you would like them to learn from the story that so far you have written?
Yeah, like shared my story. It's about a young lady who had a boyfriend or someone that you call a lover, that it happened to be a husband. Then in the middle of the road, then he decided to quit without telling you the reasons why. So in the book I wrote the events as it happens, the actual conversation, everything that's written in my story, it's an actual things, a real story that happened. So I wrote in aim to inspire women not to give up despite of the difficulties of challenges or any obstacle in life. That I just wrote to encourage women. Like if you feel like you've done a mistake, you don't correct a mistake by a mistake. You just continue doing the right thing, even if everyone doesn't believe in you. So you just continue believing and working hard to achieve any goal that you set for yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We will come back maybe to hear the poem from you. You will have to recite to us, and maybe also your colleague will also recite for us. And Bigoa, interestingly, we mentioned about issues of different views or different events that women go through. And I tried to ask you, like, the women right now, even the women, the 41 who wrote who are part of the book and who have the stories in the book, have similar views on some of those challenges facing women, or there are those with different opinions, because the kind of problems that women go through maybe grandchild, how do you call it, marriages, underage marriages. These are clear. Most of the women who went to school, have gone to school, their stance are very clear, and sometimes, and most of the times they're consistent. But there are many other issues that are interconnected, like take for example customary laws on issues to do with land, for example, how many daughters or do even daughters even or girls in the family deserve to have inheritance of what the father has, or many issues. So you find some women themselves, and this we've observed over time, that some of them even agree with men on maybe giving women less rights on some of those issues. So my question to you is, are those women 41, are they on board on all those challenges facing women, or there are inconsistencies that we can expect in the book, that some women are having these views and others having those views?
First and foremost, this book is about all women. It's about recognizing that each and one of them is important. Each and one of them stories is significant. Each and one of them story is a part of the greater South Sudanese narrative. Each and one of them is in a sisterhood and a womanhood, and that we are here together to resource one another. People have many different experiences. There's no such thing as, I guess, I'm struggling with you saying, is there identical views? I think there is many different stories, and they highlight many different kinds of things and many different kinds of challenges. I believe this book is just about that these voices are important, and all their stories are significant, no matter what particular experience they've had, no matter what particular challenge they're facing. We can get through that together. We can get through that as a collective. And it's important that those stories are heard, those stories are seen, those stories are shared, those stories continue to be written and continue to be supported, and the writing of women continues to be resourced. I think women should write about everything, whether it's what they do for work, what they enjoy, what makes them happy, as well as the things that are challenging for them, as well as the things that they want to overcome, as well as the things that they feel like society is shortchanging them on. So it's many stories. And the point is that they're all important and they're all significant. But of course, there's overarching themes, like the experience of being a woman, the experience of not having the same level of access, the same level of recognition. There's definitely that. There is, the experience of being South Sudanese and what's happened to us in the last 65 years, what's happened in the last 10 years. And it does affect women in a particular way. It does affect young girls in a particular way. So it's important to look at all those things really, really carefully, and with time and with compassion and with consideration.
Okay, we talk about compassion and consideration, which is actually, very, very important. Not necessarily that the opinions are perfect or entirely the absolute stance that should be taken always, but developing, and we need to continue hearing the stories from women. And then one thing I would also like to ask further is that, since there's no that one position of women, these are different stories. They are all very important to hear, and continue developing women together. How about
Roger? I'm going to interrupt you. Is there one position for men? Is there one position for humanity? I think everyone has a particular space and time they occupy, and it's important. But I hear you. Please go on.
When we mention women being the ones oppressed or under men, and they're calling for their rights and so on, and then when we also know that practically there are men also suffering under women, there are women who have also committed human rights abuses. There are women who have also committed many other forms of gender-based violence and many things. But the issue of these women bringing their rights is fine. But I was trying to look into, as women, are you seeing the danger that maybe you talk about being victims so much in a way that even men could also become victims of other women? So just randomly, but
yeah, sure. I might leave that point with you, because I think we seek equality for everybody, but everyone experiences inequality in a different way, and it impacts them in different levels. I'm going to share a poem with you, Raja. It's a poem I've written that's in the anthology. It's called Birth Water. And let me just pull it up. Is that okay? Can I do that?
Yeah. You want to recite the poem?
Yeah, I'm going to do that. So this one is in the section called Country is Running. It goes like this. To the children whose birth water is broken by whizzing of shrapnel, this is our portion. We know war in sunken eyes. We know it in the jabbing hunger pains. We know it in our callous, blistered feet. Home is living between two tectonic plates. Home is suspicion. Home is crouched face down on cement pavement. Deep orange skies that invite birds that squat, scrap, and scavenge. Blood has made it to the groundwater. We know the reeking smell of almost entirely well. We cannot hold it to our cracked lips, so we bite down on our children, and our kin bleed. There is time to perish, but there is no time to mourn. There is time to rot, but there is no time to bury. They're dead now. Do not motivate our fathers to get up from under the trees. They pour another cup. This is a bottomless tea. They're dead now. Do not motivate our mothers to teach their sons substance. Our black skin hangs loose. Lather it with oil to keep it from running. What is sanctum on unceded land? We say we have survived. But a new chaos embraces us softly, quietly. Fear cannot raise its mothers. Fear cannot give nutrient to the soul. Fear punches holes in the future. Fear cannot mend them. It siphons the chaos for later. Home always comes late, if at all. Later always comes so soon. We cannot continue to swing across oceans with these mangled roots. When war breaks, we run. We will not carry our language. When war rages behind clenched teeth. To fathers that sleep with guns in their hands but would never hold their children. Legacy does not fill the gaps. You've turned our names into weights that crush our backs. You've turned our names into sinking sand. What is legacy to torn limbs? What is plumbing to broken spirits? What are roots if they choke you? We say home is so far. The same oceans are sitting between folks looking into each other's eyes. Our portion is silence. They imagine home is settled soot. They imagine country is running. We now know refuge is both. Thank you. That poem I wrote actually at the retreat, which was really, really powerful. From a lot of the conversations we all had and we're all gathered, it was really inspired by all my sisters that were present at that retreat. So I love sharing that because it reminds me of that space that we share together as writers and as women and as South Sudanese people, and as strong and as compassionate and as sensitive as human beings that are just doing the best we can and flourishing with all our gifts and all our creativity.
Well, as we head towards the conclusion of the program, now we've had the point, and we understand, of course, the women of South Sudan have suffered for so many years in different forms, in different ways, as a result of the conflict, and also our understanding of who a woman is, especially the men understanding of who a woman is and what should be expected of her. Now, with this book published, how do you think it's going to help change the narrative? It's going to help change the situation and improve the women, the way women are being treated and the way women are regarded. I'm not getting...
Emmanuella, would you like to answer that or try to?
Yeah,
you can answer, both of you, maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes, yeah, both of you.
Okay. I believe this anthology will help more women and more girls on their issues, our societal issues like child marriage, early pregnancies, and will address such issues. Because when you find that some girls, when they get pregnant, they don't go back to schools. So by reading our stories, it will encourage them, it will give them hope that, hey, if you do a mistake, then you can correct it by going back to school, by empowering yourself with your education and your paper. So it will give them that hope, and it will give them power and courage to carry on with their lives without thinking negatively about themselves. Because you see here in our societies, when a girl does a bad thing, then the whole society will talk. But when a boy or a man does the same mistake, no one will talk about it. So it will give them also that courage to overcome every fear and the feeling of being rejected because of a certain mistake or something like this. But also it will give them the right to speak about their issues, because you see, it's many women, they don't like to speak about the issues. They just prefer to cry and sit alone and keep it for themselves without sharing. By sharing our personal stories, it will give them that hope and the courage to share. When you speak about your problem or an issue, it's a sort of healing. Like for me, I thought writing, it's a part of healing also. When you write, you feel relief, then it's part of healing. Then it will give them also that pride of focusing on a positive side in every situation without focusing or dwelling much on negative things that happen to their lives. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Emmanuella, you made some really, really good points about certainly that retreat was really, really healing, and it was good to see people gather together. I think this is going to be in 2017. I couldn't name many South Sudanese writers. And today, in 2021, you can pick up a book with 41 brilliant artists, creatives, and authors and journalists, and be able to see that you also are valid, and your art and your creativity is valid, and that you can do this, and you can do it better, and you can do it greater. And I think there's going to be many more writing coming from this. I think it's a great place to launch into an expansive place, whether it's like a network for women, whether it's being validated as a South Sudanese woman, your work being validated, whether it's seeing yourself reflected in stories and in pictures. And so for me, it's a great launching pad to begin mobilizing and to do things that are going to resource and carry us forward as women in ways that empower other people behind us to do it, and to do it in healthy ways, to do it in ways that conserve our strength, and we rest, but we also do this work that is really, really important for ourselves and for our communities.
Emmanuella, you have a point to say, right?
It wasn't my poem. I can't recite it now because I haven't prepared it, but I have the text for my short story.
Oh, that would be too long. I think
yeah.
For another time.
She can share, Roger, she can share a little bit of it. Maybe do a minute, Emmanuella. Is that okay?
Okay.
Do it.
Okay, 1 minute is fine.
Okay.
When you're ready.
Maybe I'll just, okay. I'll start from in the middle just because it's a long. Okay, then here it goes. My heart raced. I had not prepared myself for this kind of confrontation. I opened my mouth and closed it again. Those days when I was quiet and you would encourage me to speak, you'd finish my statements before they came out of my mouth, and your words like mine. You were the first person to tell me the word soulmates. You said we were soulmates. That is, soulmates who think alike at the same time. And I believed you. I wanted to be a soulmate. That day was different. You stood and stared at me like I was a useless tree or an insignificant stone on the road. I was not sure whether to tell you or not, but why I had wanted to see you. Clearly, you were not the same man who had left me for a few months back. You were different, but I had no choice then. I felt like I had no choice. Finally, I said it. You're going to be a father, I said. By the way, I called you, but your phone was off. We will have a baby in a few months. My work is so tiring of late. This doesn't make sense. What doesn't make sense? I'm telling you that you're going to be a father and that you will have a baby in a few months to come. And you're telling me that you called me and my phone was off? What is the connection, if I may ask? Because I'm not going to be a father, and that kind of joke is not a good idea. That's it. And the rest, we leave it for you to go and grab yourself a copy in order to get the full idea of the story.
That's fine. Bigoa, this is my last question to you as we conclude. And actually, when I try to ask about conformity or whether there's one position from the women. It's not like women must have, like all the women should have one position, but it is because there are 41 who have written a book. So women probably think that, oh, these women have come up with same position on every issue that affect them, or is different women with different stories, having different perspectives and all that. So it's fine. Maybe we thought we overthought, or we went too far to think that women are now coming with one position on everything. But actually, it is 41 women sharing their stories, and it's a developing thing, and we move on hearing more stories and more perspectives, so that issues are addressed and women are also helped. And finally, what you tell our people, our audience, how they could access the book. How are they going to get the book? How many chapters in the book? Or what should they be expecting, and how they could get the book?
Yeah, sure. Normally I have it pulled up. Let me pull it up right now so I'm able to tell you. It's definitely, and there's overarching themes, like I said, conflict, peace, what it's like to be a woman, conflict of identity. There's overarching themes, and that's how the book chapters are organized. But I think to support the book, let me have a look. To support the book is definitely, I would say, is to buy it and to share it, and maybe sit with people and read the book together, discuss some of the stories, how it made you feel, what you thought about it. So I'll just pull it up now. So No Time to Mourn. And like I said, it's memoir, poetry, photography, painting. And a lot of that really began at the retreat. And at the same time, okay, here it is.
You could also highlight or mention some of the big names, the big women, the famous women who are part of the book, who are featured.
The famous women. Yeah, sure.
Encourage the public to.
No, of course. Let's have a look. I usually have it pulled up. Okay, so the book can be purchased at africanbookscollective.com/books/No Time to Mourn. So africanbookscollective.com. If you go there and search No Time to Mourn, that's where you can order a copy from there. I believe there'll be some available in Juba, some available in Uganda at bookstores, and some available in Nairobi. If you follow us on Facebook, No Time to Mourn, at No Time to Mourn Anthology, and send us a message. I'm sure we can tell you, depending on where you are in the East Africa region, where you might be able to go to get that. Fremra, Uganda is also a place you can get the book. In terms of the women, I would love to share them, and I'm proud to call all of them my colleagues and my friends. They're incredibly talented. Okay. Here we go.
We have little time, a few minutes left.
Sure.
Yes,
so we have people like Grace Akon, Abuloyai, Grace Ben Kwal, wrote a beautiful story that I cried from how beautiful it was. Alitza Mayar Serdit, Apia Ogeli, Atong Atem, Emmanuella Baker Yul, Layet Busena, Chol Gatkektut, Chudier Pelpel, Mary Kadi, Kiden Jacqueline, Lucy Kiden Lulu, Emma Kawaje, Mare Lodu, Marie Nikimaya, Lydia Minagano Kape, Joanne Evelyn Mule, Winnie Elijah Musomba, Charity is really, really wonderful. Nyoko Dejuak Mundi Teresa, Nyalon Gatwang, Nyankir Nyandeng Chat, Nyere Tagach, who's a beautiful painter, Nyibo Lajang Adier, who couldn't join us today, Sunday Makwach, Vonda KG, Grace Winnapa in Nosta. So yeah, that's really it. Really, really wonderful, talented people.
Well, Bigoa and Emmanuella, thank you very much for being on the program. We will continue.
Yeah, thank you for hosting us.
From you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much.
Welcome. To our audience, we have come to the end of the program, the weekly review. My name is Roger Flatioro Modil, the producer and the host. See you next week.